Whoa, that was a fun musical introduction. Did you enjoy it? I had fun making it. Might be the new introduction to the console log video. Might have to do it again if I do that because it was a little bit off the cuff. This is episode 29, the week of March 26th through March 4th. This was a big week in the world of JavaScript, in particular React. Were you in suspense? If you know what I'm talking about, then you're gonna hear all the new details in the next few minutes of this episode. So buckle your seatbelt, put your keyboards in a relaxed and upright position, and let's get started with the new episode of the console log. First big news item of the week, as promised, is all about React. There was Untitled.js this past Thursday where Dan Abramov, who works on the React core team, had a talk that he talked about the latest new features that they're bringing to React, all about React Suspense and React time splicing. This is the React team making good on their promise to implement new async features into React core. I think the easiest way to explain why you'd want to mess around with React Suspense is via the demo that Dan showed. As you can see here, Dan is clicking on an item in the list, and you can see a loading indicator start to spin. And what's interesting is that the next screen is not shown until all the data has fully resolved. And this is where the true power of async React comes into play, in the sense that you are able to have deferred states of your React tree that will not actually be rendered to the page until everything there is ready. As explained in Dan's talk, this is a generic way for components to suspend rendering while they load async data. Again, the main goal of async React is to create better applications for your end users, such that they don't see a whole blank page with a loading indicator. Instead, React can actually wait until the data is there, and then once everything is in there, show everything on the page. Now, one of the most controversial parts of this async React implementation is how you actually tell React to suspend rendering of that next state tree. And the way that the React team has chosen to go about this is via throwing a promise in your render function. I'll repeat that again. If you have a render function in your React component and you are rendering some async data, you can actually throw a promise of that async request going off, and React will actually grab that promise in its cache handler using the same mechanisms as the error boundaries, not using the error boundary feature, but using the same internal mechanisms. The parent will grab that promise, wait for it to resolve. Once it resolves, it will then actually go back to where that component was suspended and then re-render that tree down from there. And having this built into React Core allows for you to actually continue to write your React applications as you are normally used to. You can actually still write your React applications in a declarative manner, not really worrying about sync versus async. And I think that's the most powerful thing about this entire new feature, is that this way of throwing a promise actually removes this abstraction between a async React component and a sync React component. That you just write the code the same way, and React itself knows how to handle that in-between state. So there's two ways that you could write some async or sync code. Like in JavaScript, you have an indirect way of writing async code via a wait or a promise. It's indirect. You're actually being explicit about how this is some async code that's occurring. By leveraging the ability of throwing a promise, you actually are removing this abstraction and writing async behavior in a direct manner, such that there is no distinction between async or sync. You're just writing the code and letting the enveloping framework, in this case, because in other languages like OCaml would be the language itself, but React, the framework, would actually handle making that difference between an async or sync rendering method. So this is all very exciting. It's all very, very new. Do not panic at all. This is not coming into React until a later release, not 16.3, but possibly after that. Also, this is going to be an opt-in feature. So again, there is no need to panic. Be calm, everybody, be calm, because this is going to hopefully allow you to make better applications as an end result. The React team also does care about the end programmer ergonomics, so I'm sure they're going to be very focused on making sure that it is easy to use, so that you can still write your React applications as you care about today and get these features for almost free. Again, I'm in suspense about waiting for this to come into mainstream. I actually want to play this right now. If I wanted to, I'd have to build a custom build of React from the master branch, which I'm not about to do. But hopefully that gives you the high level overview about what this React Suspense is. That's been being discussed so much in the Twitter sphere. I've been trying to keep up to date. I might even make a breakout video going more in depth about what this feature means. I was trying to give you just a high level overview for now, but stay tuned. It's coming down the pike. They're still working on it. They're still figuring out themselves what it actually means to be async React, and this is their first stab at making that proclamation to the greater React community. So I'm very excited. I'm no longer in suspense. I'm just wearing suspenders. That's a joke. That's a lie. I'm wearing no suspenders, and React is evolving. Just like a Pokemon, React has reached a new level. Very cool. Staying in the world of React, we actually have the team from Apollo, which is an implementation of GraphQL both on the server and the client. And after seeing React Suspense release, they actually went ahead and added async behavior to React Apollo. And I think the biggest thing about this that I find very interesting is both from the developer side, in the sense of you being a React application developer. If you want to actually use async rendering, all you have to do is add one prop to your query component, which is very cool. But what is even more exciting to me is how the engineers at Apollo were able to add this feature into React Apollo. And the commit for this edition is very small, which is just awesome to see. All they had to do was throw that promise that was waiting on that GraphQL resolution and let React handle the rest. That is wild. That is such a nice, easy way of adding this, both on the framework side, but also in your own code as well. So if you want to play with this, you can. It's still very much bleeding edge. You will need to use a Band-Aid if you use this. So I caution, but the world is moving forward. So I have to move forward with it too. Or I'll just stop and just kind of let it move around me. Ooh, jello, jello. Let's move away from React a little bit. I'm sure you're a little bit over-nauseated by it. Maybe you're not. Maybe you want me to talk about React more. It's up to you. You can ask me and I'll talk about it more whenever you want me to. In the world of Google, there is a framework that you might not be aware about called Flutter. This is a new framework being developed by a team inside of Google that is trying to make a, not really a competitor, but an alternative to React Native. Flutter is a framework for writing native applications using a JavaScript-like language that you might have remembered from way back in the day, Dart. I don't know if you remember this. This was a whole new language that Google was developing as an alternative to JavaScript, and also when TypeScript was first coming out. It has types built in, so it is a strongly typed language. But Flutter is a framework that is built using the Dart language, and it actually is trying to do the same thing that React Native does, in the sense of being able to write code in this JavaScript-like language and be able to render it both to iOS and to Android. The past week, why I'm talking about it now, is that they actually released the first beta of Flutter. The thing that I found most interesting about this is that I actually already used an application with Flutter and had no idea, which is a good sign, because if I can't tell the difference, then that means that Flutter is actually doing its job correctly. The application, of course, was Hamilton the Musical. I tried to turn the raffle every time to go to see Hamilton the show, but I had to end up just buying the tickets and instead working overtime to pay off those tickets. God, it's an expensive show, but I had my shot and it was good. So the beta is out. You're welcome to try it. You can use it in VS Code. You can also use it in Android Studio. It's very interesting to keep an eye on. I'm a little bit worried about it using Dart as the language for it. I think at this point they should have just used TypeScript, because you could have had more of a community behind it. Also, what I find interesting is that the way in which you write a Flutter component looks similar to React, except without the angle brackets. If you see here, if all they added was the angle brackets and had a transpiler to change it, then you would just have JSX in your code, which I think actually would have a easier path towards adoption in the JavaScript community. But in any case, Google is doing it. It's glad to see that there's some competition to React Native. Having that be the only game in town is never good. Competition is healthy. I like to compete and see who is strong. I need to work out more. That's not good. But flutter your way towards Flutter and try it out soon. Last but not least, I have a ghostly tale of a phantom dying. That is that PhantomJS is being officially archived and put into maintenance mode. This has been on the chopping block for a while now. It was actually, PhantomJS was effectively dead last April in 2017 when the lead maintainer at the time stepped down in advance of the news that Chrome was coming out with a headless version of Chrome. But in the past week, the original creator of PhantomJS has actually used the GitHub archive feature to actually put PhantomJS into archive mode. And this is a warning sign to all you out there that if you're using PhantomJS to run your end-to-end tests, it is high time that you start thinking about moving to a new alternative. That can either be Chrome headless, that can be Firefox headless. You can also use JS DOM if you want to, but PhantomJS is going to be no longer maintained, and it's kind of sad to see it go into the recycle bin, but it was hugely influential in moving the web forward. And it was this bridge between having no headless browser environment, and now you actually have Firefox and Chrome officially supporting with a huge dev team behind it. So thank you so much, PhantomJS, for all the work that you've done over the past couple of years, and I'm happy to see you go because you have done such a good impact on the community. Very melancholy, right? Melancholy. So that's how it goes. And that was the show, the Console Log, episode 29. If you are not already a subscriber, please do subscribe down below so you are kept up to date on these latest updates in the world of JavaScript and the web. I had a good time this past week. I did not wake up at 5 a.m. for the React announcement. I only wake up early for Apple products because I'm an Apple fanboy, unabashedly so, but it was pretty exciting to see the entire hype train roll through the entire community. Again, I hope you have had a good past week of coding, and if you are not already subscribed again, please do subscribe down below. I'm on that path towards 1,000. When we get there, I will do something big because I have to, because that's what you have to do when you get to 1,000 subscribers. So thank you all for listening, and I hope to see you again next week. Bye-bye.